1978 Circuit of Ireland, and last year's winner Russell Brooks leads the field away from the Belfast start.
3, 2, 1, go!
Car 4 is Finland's Hannu Mikkola. Now in his 11th year as a works escort driver, Britain's Roger Clark. And Billy Coleman, hero of all Ireland, is back at the wheel of the Lancia Stratos. The first day, and Brooks is determined to win the circuit again. Coleman completes less than a dozen stages before finally retiring mid-stage with a burnt-out clutch. Mikkola, driving with a sticking throttle, loses more than 10 minutes when he slides over a bank. Also having throttle trouble, Russell Brooks has to operate his car from under the bonnet, whilst co-driver John Brown does the steering. The special stages are meant to be closed to all normal traffic, but this Irish farmer doesn't seem to have got the message, much to the annoyance of Marco Allain in the works Fiat. Roger Clark is holding 5th place after the first night. Brooks is now storming through the field after his early troubles. Pentti Ricola, despite his brake problems, holds 4th place. The village of Kilmakilligee Harbour is typical of the scenic stages of the famous Sunday run through Kerry. Russell Brooks proves unbeatable here and snatches the lead from McRae's Chevette. Allain finds these stages hard work. Although he led the early part of the rally, he now drops to 3rd. Clark inherits 4th place when Ricola retires, and the English driver now sets out after Allain. Brian Nelson has trouble with an enthusiastic spectator. Brooks now has a commanding lead, but he's obviously feeling the pressure. In his efforts to grab first place, teammate Clark gets quicker and quicker. He's fastest on 11 of the last 14 stages. Rally leader for 2 days, Jimmy McRae, also begins to make mistakes. So does John Lyons. Brooks wins from McRae, Allain and Clark.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Give him
To win it 2 years running.
Oh, absolutely super. I mean, this year's rally was incredibly tough. You know, and even just to get here is very welcoming, but to win it as well is sort of double pleasure. It really was a very, very tough event. Thanks, Commodore.
Back in mainland Britain, 250 miles of Welsh forests await Pentti Ricola's Vauxhall Chevette. A confident Hannu Mikkola leaves the Cardiff start and immediately sets the pace. Russell Brooks is close behind the Flying Finn in his similar Ford Escort. Marco Allain seems intent on redesigning his Fiat.
Martin, I thought you'd like to have those anniversary, yeah.
I know you win.
Thank you, Mr. Hinchcliffe. Thank you.
I know this in
In the jump.
As the rally moves into the magnificent flowing forests of central Wales, Clark begins to catch Allain's Fiat. But it's Mikkola who's totally in control, leading by over 2 minutes. Clark moves up to 2nd, making it a Ford 1-2. Hannu's only problem so far is a missing rear window. Roger is having a tremendous run, setting times that only Mikkola can beat. Brooks is trying to make up time after suffering a blown tyre and losing 8 minutes. The final 4 stages are on the daunting tarmac roads of the Epid military ranges, where Clark continues to pull away from the Fiat. Beating even Mikkola on the last stage, Brooks completes a climb through the field into 5th place. But the rally belongs to Hannu Mikkola and Arne Hertz.
Oh, no, okay. He's better on this.
He's obviously done this once or twice before. Give him a drink. And off goes Russell. Russell Brooks leaves the Aviemore start of the Scottish Rally. Marco Elaine has come straight from the Acropolis Rally and starts the Scottish feeling very tired. Still struggling with the new Vauxhall engine specification, Jimmy McRae is obviously keen to do well on home ground. Clark is fighting for 2nd place behind the flying Mikkola. Tony Pond finds the TR7 hard work in the bumpy Scottish forest.
That's what I was saying to you. What is it that what's doing it? Is the car kicking into a corner?
Yes.
It was, but it was the front end that was doing it then, and it's still doing it now. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, what happens? You turn into the corner and you feel the back sort of go.
The tired Elaine catches up on his sleep whilst the Fiat mechanics work. Leyland seem to have troubles of their own. Pond's TR7 refuses to start. Russell Brooks' chance of victory is gone when he drops to 13th position following a short excursion. Roger Clark has also been off, dropping him into 6th place.
It wasn't a particularly hairy crash. All we did was just slide sideways into a very muddy ditch. We couldn't get any traction to drive out and we were stuck there. There was no mechanical damage to the car whatsoever. And in fact, we weren't even more than a foot off the road.
As little as that?
Yes, that's all.
How did you get out?
We were incredibly fortunate. Andy Dawson in his Datsun has not had a particularly happy rally. And he stopped and towed us out to the cost of about 2 or 3 minutes to himself, which I think is very, very generous and very sporting.
Mikkola now leads by a comfortable 8 seconds. Clark pulls back enough to finish 3rd, whilst Brooks climbs back to take 7th place. Having led from start to finish, Mikkola wins the Scottish in impressive style. Hannu Mikkola starts the Burma International with a new sponsor, Eaton's Yale lift trucks. With Marco Elaine away in Finland practicing for the Thousand Lakes Rally, the German ace Walter Roll gets a drive in the Works Fiat. The winner of this event last year, Mikkola again sets the early pace. Fiat are using this event to test new twin-compound Pirelli tyres, which they plan to use on the RAC Rally. Works Vauxhall driver Chris Slater is back in an escort for this event. Clark tackles the first of 3 tarmac stages in Glasgow's Bellahouston Park. Mikkola makes a rare mistake on stage 9 and drops to 4th place. The new rally leader is Russell Brooks. As the rain continues to team down, the rally moves into the classic forests of Argyllshire. The young Australian driver, Greg Carr, is setting regular top 10 times on his first ever British rally.
What
did Hannah just say?
He reckoned that Britain was going to sink shortly with all this rain.
So what do you make of all this rain then, Hannah?
Oh, this is quite normal in this country.
So what sort of night have you had then, Roger?
Well, everything I possess is wet. It's been torrential the whole night. The forests are awash, and even with the narrowest tyres on we've got, they're still aquaplaning down the straight. Hard work.
As the two-day rally draws to a close, Mikkola is catching the leaders. Walter Rall finds the new Pirellis less than satisfactory in the prevailing conditions, and his Fiat drops out of the battle for the lead. Clark's Dunlop seem better suited to the saturated forests, and he moves past the Fiat. Russell Brooks still leads the Burma. The last stage is just 4 miles long, and he starts it 13 seconds ahead of Mikkola. Surprising most of the regular drivers, Greg Carr finishes in 6th place and takes the Man of the Rally award.
What's gone wrong?
Oh, when we had an ignition pack go, and it cost us 1 minute and 6 seconds to Hannah.
What's that mean then?
Depends on whose addition of time you use, but either Hanu's won by a second, we won by a second, or as we think, it's a tie. And if it's a tie, Hanu wins on the tiebreaker.
So, Hannah, you've just been officially confirmed the winner. How do you feel?
Oh, I'm very surprised. I never thought that I'm so lucky person. You know, normally luck is not on my side, but it looks like this time it was. But I feel sorry for Russell. He had a very good run. He was running very well.
As the championship moves to the Isle of Man for Britain's only Pace Note International, Russell Brooks is feeling the pressure.
Well, very, very tense at the moment. I do before any rally, but before this one especially so, because really this one is the critical one in the championship. If Hanu took a win on this, there's no way I could win the championship. If we could beat Hanu, then we'd be in with a very good chance indeed.
Hanu, you've had a wonderful run of success in British rallies recently. How do you feel about this one?
Looks like it's a normal weather again. It's raining, so we are quite used to it already.
The lead is immediately snatched by Hanu Mikkola. Clark is fighting for 3rd place. Tony Pond holds a comfortable 2nd place. John Taylor also contests 3rd. Mikkola continues to extend his lead. He's fastest on 6 of the first 9 stages. Russell Brooks' car continues to cause problems, putting him in 9th position. Clark is having a steady run and now lies 5th. Pond is the only driver who can live with Mikkola, but the TR7 shows no signs of overhauling the leader. Taylor has engine problems which drop him to 4th as the crews head for Douglas at the end of the first leg. Pond's TR7 starts the 2nd loop. Clark has more experience on pace notes than any other British driver. With half the event gone, he still plays a waiting game. Pond is pursuing Mikkola, but even 300 horsepower doesn't seem to be enough. Disaster for Ford. On the 2nd night stage, Mikkola crashes.
Literally minutes ago, you passed our camera in special stage 10, and here you are standing on Douglas Promenade with the lights in the background. What's happened?
We got a front wheel puncture and we went straight off the road.
Tony, when last night did you find out that Hanu was out?
When we actually saw him beside the road.
Right, and since then you've built up a quite incredible 2 minutes 23 seconds lead, which must make you almost unbeatable. What's going to be your policy today?
Well, I think we'll just go quite slowly on the rough stages and try and sort of quick on the open ones where the car's very good.
Clark is fastest on half a dozen of the final stages, but he seems to have left his move too late. Pond leads all the way to the finish. Clark finishes fourth to lead the Sedan Championship. Taylor drives brilliantly to take second. The organisers finally exclude Brooks for servicing his troubled Escort in a control area.
Well, Tony, you've done it. Congratulations. How do you feel?
Great. Fantastic since I came across that last finishing line. It's never over till you sort of coast over that bit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Bjorn Valdegaard, winner of the RAC Rally last year, leads the 168 competitors away from Birmingham to start the final round of the Sedan Championship. Shortcuts seem to be quite in order on the twisty tarmac roads of Bewdley Safari Park. This is typical of the spectator stages which make up the first day's rallying. Stig Blomqvist follows the accepted line in the Saab Turbo. Marco Elaine has chosen to drive a Stratos for this event. Mikkola follows the fast line too, but the tarmac is slippier than it looks. The early leader is Walter Rall, who finds traction on these stages no problem at all, thanks to the strategic location of his co-driver. Ari Vatanen is the first driver to stick to the official route. Pond follows the majority line, but finds 300 horsepower something of an embarrassment and almost copies Mikkola. The Chevette was designed specifically to win the RAC Rally, so Auricola is trying particularly hard. Despite the weather, over 40,000 spectators crowd into the now traditional stage in Birmingham's Sutton Park, where Valdegaard is first through the infamous Ford. Elaine takes over the lead in the manoeuvrable Stratos. He has no trouble at all with the Ford, unlike at least one of his fellow countrymen.
That's car number 6 is on his accident. And he went straight on. He didn't read that at all well. Driver, and one would expect to do
Auricola is fifth, with all the forests yet to come. Clark leads the Sedan Championship and only needs a good finish on this event to win the title. He takes no risks on the first day. Russell Brooks, joint second in the championship, is also up amongst the front runners and trying hard in front of his home crowd. John Taylor demonstrates his rallycross technique.
The other moment there,
Do you remember the first stage this morning?
Yes.
What do you remember about that?
Oh, Christ. I had an accident there 2 years ago, and it was very slippery again.
I suppose that's something to do with the camels and the lions, isn't it? Bjorn, what sort of day have you had?
Hasn't been too bad. Slippery.
Okay.
I start up with a spin in the first corner of the rally.
Roger, what sort of day have you had?
As you know, it's been wet and slippery, but nothing's gone wrong and I've enjoyed it.
Do you know where you're lying?
Oh, I haven't a clue. It's early days yet.
Day 2 brings the first forest stages, but Blomqvist is soon to retire. Elaine continues to lead. As they reach the longer forests, Mikkola makes his move. Pond has lost several minutes with jammed rear brakes, and he's well down the field. Brooks has also suffered locked rear brakes, dropping him out of contention for the moment. Alain leads by over a minute, the nimble Stratos still proving unbeatable in the slippery conditions. Mikkola starts setting the pace, however, and moves into second. Despite his own backseat driver, Wall drops to third. The TR7 starts to climb through the field, and Pon promises to remove his brain for the night stages. Clark is still driving steadily, well inside the top 10. Voldegaard's car suffers several minor problems, and he can't keep up with Mikkola. John Taylor's Escort is the only one fitted with fuel injection, and this is causing trouble. As Kielder approaches, Clark arrives for routine service. Auricola is now fourth, but his Chevette has problems.
M&S. 195. And 5 gallons of fuel.
Voldegaard is having trouble with his brakes now. He calls in for a quick check.
First stage is failing, and I thought it was that I mean, I have brake, but you feel they are getting very, very hot. Smoke is like hell, you know.
From the front?
Yeah.
Well, do you want to leave them in?
Yeah.
Well, what about the balance? That's okay. So we leave the pads as they are.
Or change the back for the
Well, if the balance is okay, we're going to have new pads in the back again then.
Then you've got to burn that lot in.
Yeah.
but
I would leave them until next time.
Clark's only problem is a broken starter motor, which the Ford mechanics change rapidly.
Yeah. Where is it?
Pentti Auricola seems to be in some doubt about fitting an air filter for the long forests.
Yeah.
you keep the air cleaner on?
Yeah.
At the moment, yes?
Yeah.
The working conditions don't impress the Ford mechanics at all.
I don't want another job like that.
Clark sets out for the toughest section of the rally, 60 miles in Kielder Forest. Now the Ford team make their move. By the time they reach the Lake District, Hannu Mikkola leads by over 7 minutes. Clark is now third, whilst Alain Stratos and the entire Vauxhall team have gone missing. Rawle is fourth, behind Clark. Most uncharacteristically, Bjorn Voldegaard has had an accident, but he still manages fastest time on this stage, and he holds second place. Brooks is back in the top 10 and having a terrific tussle with Tony Pond in the unwieldy TR7. He too moves up the order. Helping to organise Ford's complex service schedule is Graham Robson.
Whose clutch are you changing?
We're changing Roger's clutch purely as a routine operation because they get such a lot of hard work on this event that rather than have an enforced change, we've got about half an hour to spare at Newbury Bridge and we're doing it there.
Into Wales for the final 2 days, and Mikkola already looks a winner. His lead is still over 7 minutes, and the next 2 places are held by his own teammates. Voldegaard himself is 2 minutes clear of the third-place man, but he can do nothing about Mikkola. Pond is putting absolutely everything into his last-ever TR7 drive. If he doesn't win, it won't be for want of trying. Brooks is now on his favourite stages, and he begins to close the gap on Rawle. Mikkola has no problems at all. His Escort requires only routine servicing throughout the final loop. Co-driver Arne Hertz can afford to be polite.
Good morning.
Next to arrive is Valdegaard. Brooks is still running, but Roger Clark appears to be missing.
Still maintaining your lead?
Yes, yes.
Any problems with the car?
No, not at all. It's gone very well.
Just taking nice and steady now.
Yes.
Yes, you're in third now.
Yes, we caught Walter all up on the long anti-hutch stage. In fact, we're quite pleased because we actually passed him on the stage, so we took the lead from him. And then he went off on the following stage, I gather, and lost about 15 minutes.
Trying to keep up with you?
I would like to think that, yes. We've not heard a lot about Tony Pond, but we gather from unofficial results that he's some way behind as well, so he must have had some problems.
Roger, you had some bad luck.
Right, so not in my year.
Well, what happened?
We had a clutch break going through one of the stages, and we were driving without a clutch. And we came to a rather tricky corner and misjudged it and went off. But the problem, we got the car sorted out, and we tried to start, and we had no clutch, and we had no starter motor either, so we couldn't move the car.
When you say it hasn't been your year, you were leading the championships. It's not been a bad year up to now.
Well, we were looking forward to doing one on the RAC.
Very bad luck.
It's life.
The penultimate stage, and Mikkola is now sure of victory. With less than 5 miles to go, he leads by almost 6 minutes. Valdegaard is equally safe in second place, 6 minutes clear of his pursuers. Brooks really storms through the last stages to make it a 1-2-3 for Ford. Pond ends his Leyland career on a high note with 4th. Last-minute engine problems drop the unfortunate Rall to 6th. His own problems finally solved, John Taylor finishes 7th. For the 7th year running, a Ford Escort wins the RAC Rally. For Ford, it's a particularly sweet victory. A major strike at the factory forces them to rely on dealers to prepare all their cars. In the end, it makes no difference at all. Hannu Mikkola and Arne Hertz get the champagne yet again. It's their 4th international rally win of 1978 and gives them the Sedan Open Rally Championship.
Team manager, Peter Ashcroft, in the middle, Peter, well done.
More than 10 years of careful development had gone into the rallying Escorts before the 1979 season began. Now, it was time for the coup de grace.
What about the Escorts?
I think they're favourites to win this year.
Roger Clark was only thinking of the Monte Carlo rally, but he might have been commenting on the Ford Escort's World Championship prospects. In 1979, there were 12 events in 4 continents and stiff opposition. but an escort could win any one of them. The Monte is still the most glamorous of all rallies, yet an escort had never won it. However, this time, two special tarmac racers driven by Bjorn Voldegaard and Hannu Mikkola dominated the stages right from the start. Only the massed ranks of the Works Fiat Bath team looked like matching them at first. But it was Bernard Darniche and the blue Lancia Stratos who, although off the pace at first, began an amazing charge, proving fastest on every stage towards the finish. On the last night, the huge crowds that gathered at the summit of the famous Turini special stage saw the lead cruelly snatched from the Ford Escorts on the last run to Monte Carlo. In the end, the Fiats were beaten, but Mikkola's chances were spoiled by a brush with the steward and a 5-minute road penalty. Voldegaard still had time in hand, only 2 stages from home. The event was lost by just 6 seconds. What had gone wrong?
It was on the second last stage, 2.5 kilometers from the start, becoming around the left-hand corner. And there was 2 rocks in the middle of the road.
How big were they?
Big enough to not pass, you know, so I hit one and it got stuck between the steering wheel and the chassis. And we couldn't move it away, you know, for I tried to reverse and do everything. But Hans has to go out and actually help it away. And it took bloody half a minute.
But although the other drivers were going well, you were also maintaining your lead, weren't you, at that time?
Yeah, I mean, without that we possibly have done it. But that seems like that happened in rally.
Three weeks later, the Works Escorts joined battle with Saab and Fiat in the Swedish rally. Bjorn Voldegaard had won the event 4 times in 10 years, but so had Stig Blomqvist in his Saabs. It was a classic Escort Saab turbo fight this time. There wasn't much snow, and the Escorts were clearly fastest. The 2 Works Toyotas were lower down the field, and eventually both retired. Voldegaard went off on the first stage and spent the rest of the rally climbing back up the field to second place, giving the experienced Blomqvist his 5th Swedish victory. The Escort's first win of the season had to wait until March and the Rally de Portugal. Voldegaard had added another 16 points to Ford's championship total on the Swedish. However, with 18 points for a win and 10 events still to go, it was going to be a tough season. The Portuguese rally has everything: tarmac stages and loose going, endurance, high speeds, and a great battering for the cars. Ford sent 3 Escorts along, but Ari Vatanen had to withdraw after only 4 stages with severe back trouble. For the first time this year, the Toyota Celicas went well. Like the Datsuns, they were running in the Group 2 category, where they might not have been as fast, but they were certainly reliable. The most significant performance, however, was that of Andy Dawson's Datsun, which took 4th place. All of a sudden, it wasn't Fiat, the old rivals who were challenging Ford for World Championship points, but Datsun, and the season had barely started. Only 16 cars from 88 starters made it to the finish, and the 2 surviving escorts were 1st and 2nd. Hannu Mikkola beat Bjorn Voldegaard by nearly 3 minutes, and the Toyota of Ove Anderson was 22 minutes behind him. It had been a tough event. The escorts, having won the Safari twice in the past, gave it a miss in 1979. All attention was focused on Mercedes-Benz and their big 450 SLC coupes, on the Fiat Abarths and on Datsun. The Japanese team and their drivers were Safari experts, but the German and Italian teams had less experience. Two of Ford's regular drivers, Mikkola and Voldegaard, were driving for Mercedes-Benz and had personal ambitions to settle. They were leading the Drivers' World Championship table, and there were no team orders to follow. By Kenyan standards, the 79 Safari was regarded as a dry event. For 5,000 kilometers and for 82 controls, there were really only 3 drivers in the race. Voldegaard or Mikkola both might have won for Mercedes-Benz, but reliability paid off for Shekhar Mehta in the Datsun, who eventually won by no less than 48 minutes. So after 4 events, Ford had 50 points towards the championship, but Datsun had already amassed 40. There was still a long way to go. Athens, and a glorious backdrop for the start of the Acropolis Rally, which was probably the toughest of the series. Ford entered 3 Works escorts, sponsored by Rothmans, and no one, least of all the drivers, thought it was going to be easy.
Bjorn, you out to repeat your success of 2 years ago?
I would like to, but it's a big competition actually, and the timing is very tight on the road sections this year, so we have just to keep the fingers crossed that we don't get into some trouble, you know, then we lose time.
The Acropolis has always been a bit hard and fast.
It's much tighter than it was when you were here last, is it?
Very tough. I feel it is a bit too tough.
Right from the start, Ford had problems. Dust, Datsun and Darniche. Although Voldegaard led from the start and having no one's dust to swallow must have helped enormously, Darniche's Stratos was bravely driven. The Lancia was a private entry, and Darniche was no Acropolis expert. The Datsuns, too, were proving once again formidable opponents. By the end of the first day, both Voldegaard's teammates, Hannu Mikkola and Roger Clark, had retired. Darniche was trying so hard that he nudged a bank with the Stratos, but the flapping front panel didn't slow him down at all. Everyone was trying hard. They had to, for the road schedule was impossibly tight.
Millen!
Make no mistake, this is a real endurance event. The best of the cars can cope, but the strain on the drivers' faces is beginning to show. Even for the mechanics, this is no routine occasion. But the professionals show no tiredness on this special stage. If it wasn't for the heat, the noise and the dust, this could be just the occasion for some high-speed play. The Acropolis had now become a relentless four-cornered battle between Ford, Lancia, Toyota and Datsun, with the rest of the field racing closely behind. Motorgaurd was now out on his own against the Stratos, but he was feeling exhausted. At one point, he even lost the lead due to brake troubles and punctures. Then the Stratos broke its suspension, and Motorgaurd's victory was assured. Who was it who said that motorsport was all glamour and no effort? At the end of the Acropolis, Motorgaurd reckoned it was the toughest win he'd ever had.
Hasn't been too easy, actually.
A few problems.
We've got some problem with the rear brake cylinder. So I have had only front brakes all the way from Calabar. So I have used the foot brake and the handbrake together to get the four wheels locking. So I've been very difficult.
I would think the order is Björn, Danish or ourselves in second place.
No, I hope I'm leading, but I don't know.
I can put one on, but they won't stay on, that's the problem.
Not at all.
Well, I'll try and wire it on.
Can I weld it on? It's been a very hard night. Very big fight with Danish. You know, I lost time when I had two punctures on one stage, and it was equal. And he was really fighting until he broke his rear suspension.
What was that?
In Megapolis.
So for the last few stages you've been very close.
Yeah, Anderson was maybe close. You know, it's too tight, so we never can compare any times with each other. So I didn't know, but now I always out as well. I believe the engine blew up.
How do you feel now?
Very tired.
It was Ford's second win of the year so far and brought their championship score to 68 points. But the chase was on, for Salinen's Datsun had taken second place and the Japanese team was now only 11 points behind Ford in the championship table. The works teams of Ford, Datsun and Vauxhall all made the long trip to New Zealand for the Motorgaurd rally, where local commentator Ted Seymour found plenty to excite him.
Special Stage 1, Western Springs. Auricular and McCollar start together. Auricular thinks he's a Daytona. He flies past McCollar, taking the fastest time for this stage. First of the special stages is at the Bay Park Raceway, and a flooded subway confronts McCollar. Now Vatanen takes the plunge. Andy Dawson's driven the Datsun back into the top 10.
Right, left, moving left, okay. It's going 200 to straight right.
McCollar charges to New Plymouth. Behind him, Vatanen's car sounds like a Taranaki tractor. Robson sends some photographers to the cleaners. Salonen. Now Shane Millen in a Chevette he built as a replica of Auricula's works car. Millen drives superbly and finishes 5th. The leading escorts are in trouble.
We have had head gasket problems during the night, so I have been nursing engine quite a lot, but it looks like we are getting it all right here.
In the daylight run home to Auckland, the Datsuns can make their move. The escorts are running on reduced power. During the night, Adams has punctured several times and has dropped back to 5th. So Salonen now sits in 3rd place. The morning mist will soon lift to give him a clear run at the escorts. Join Vatanen on special stage 35.
Coming up to right at junction. That's it. And left at junction.
Vatanen is in control here. The time is running out for the Finn. The head gasket repair job is failing and disaster is imminent. Not so McCollar though. He's quietly increasing his lead all the time. Special stage 36, and McCollar still leads. Next to appear is Robson, whose car shows evidence of having left the road. Salonen's coping well with the troublesome gearbox, but his problems are minor compared with Vatanen's. The escort's head gasket has gone for good this time, and he's lost 2nd place to Salonen. under the old mountain road and stage 37. McCullough leads out from Salonen. Meanwhile, Vatanen stocks up the tanks. The escort's using more water than petrol now, and Dave Richards' confidence too is fast evaporating. He'll have to pin his faith on Lady Luck.
You just keep your fingers crossed.
Salonen still holding second. Blair Robson, third now, starts at Pukekohe while McCullough completes his second lap. Finally, the hapless Vatanen chugs in. Somehow, the car has made it. At the expense, perhaps, of the crew's hearing. Through the whole grueling four-day event, one thing has remained constant. Hannu Mikkola and Arnie Hertz's position at the head of the field. Now they check in for the last time.
I'll tell you what, I'll trade you, is that right?
Put your hands together for them.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Good drive.
A fine drive by Salonen into second, but shock and disappointment to come for team manager Andy Dawson. Nissan in Japan refused to allow scrutineers to inspect the engines, and they are both excluded. All credit to the Ford service crews for 1, 2, and 3. Vatanen and Richards somehow coaxed the terminally ill escort to the finish, where it finally gives out. A green traffic light has saved them, and they're third. A magnificent example of their determination to finish.
A month later, Ford's escorts took second and third place on the Thousand Lakes Rally, behind Marco Allen's Fiat Abarth, and followed that with a victory on the Critérium du Québec in Canada. The scene then changed to Italy and the San Remo, where, with no works escorts competing, Fiat hoped for a local victory to bolster their World Championship position. However, works driver Walter Roll only managed to finish in second place. It was the Lancia Stratos of Tony Fassina that managed to snatch victory from the Fiat team. For Datsun, it was a disastrous event as Salonen's car blew its engine before half distance. Prosotto's Group 1 escort was 7th, picking up 12 valuable points for Ford. With 3 events still to be held, there was still doubt over who would win the championship. Neither Ford nor Datsun entered cars for the Tour de Corse, which followed a month later and was won by Darniche. Ford's 26-point lead over Datsun was not secure, and the final battle was to be played on Ford's home ground, the Lombard RAC Rally. It was the biggest event of the year, but a sad one for Ford enthusiasts. This would be their last event. After 12 remarkably successful years, the escort era was nearly over. Everyone was present, and everyone was trying extremely hard.
usual. I went off on the first stage. It was a nasty corner with leaves, and we went in reasonably slow, but put on throttle in the middle of the corner, just spin, and we jumped into the ditch.
Ford had already won the previous 7 RAC rallies, and they made no mistake at this their 8th attempt. Not even Marco Allen, the last works Lancia Stratos, could catch the flying escorts. There was no stopping Hannu Mikkola, who repeated his 1978 victory with ease. The competition was tough to the very end, with the Ford drivers' closest rivals hard on their heels. In all, 6 Ford Escorts finished in the top 10 and also took Group 1 honours. The Lombard RAC turned out to be a remarkable end to a truly remarkable World Championship season. In 1979, the Escorts won the World Rally Championship because they were so versatile and professionally driven. But winning isn't easy. There's no substitute for experience or for painstaking research and development. But in 1968, when Roger Clark took the first Escort twin cams to 4 victories in 3 months, who would have expected an Escort to still be a world winner 11 years later? It wasn't just a winning year for the Escort. Bjorn Waldegaard also became the World Rally Champion, and his teammate Hannu Mikkola finished just 1 point behind him. It really was the coup de grace.
More for sports lovers than aggressive competition, and the Castrol had the makings of a battle royal. Ari Vartinen from Finland, Greg Carr, the local from Canberra, who hadn't been beaten in this event for 5 years, Jim Donald, a Kiwi champion, Colin Bond, Australian rally champion 3 times over, and Australia's man of the moment in motorsport, Peter Brock. These were the leading contenders, but a field of 45 drivers were following in their dust. The rally covers over 600 kilometres and starts at electrifying pace on a full division of bitumen. The navigator for Ari Vartinen, Englishman David Richards, claims the bitumen will make it an even more demanding contest for both man and machine.
But I think it'll tend to level things up a little bit because you've got the gravel stages are quite tricky, and I think the asphalt, some of the racing drivers, I noticed here you've got a couple of your very good Australian racing drivers entered on the rally. I think it'll give them a better chance. And the other great thing in the start of the rally, it's quite important that the classification is right for tonight, because if you're running way back in the order tonight, you've got problems. And of course, there's no dust problem here on the asphalt stages, or bitumen stages, rather. So it does make it fair for everybody from that point of view. It doesn't cut up either. So I think, all in all, it gives a far rounder sort of event. You know, it's a far more comprehensive type of event. It's a far better test of the drivers and the motorcars.
Ari Vartinen, in the leading mass sport Escort, has come to Australia with a reputation of being the fastest and most spectacular rally driver in the world. His presence has generated excitement never experienced before in the Castrol. By the end of the first day, Vartinen will have fulfilled everyone's expectations. Spectators will have seen a rare display of fearless driving and brute speed. The whispers in the crowd are that perhaps this is the year Greg Carr will be knocked off the pedestal he's sat on for 5 years. He's won the last 5 Castrols, all on dirt, but the bitumen may find a chink in the armour of the defending champion.
Acute left just here. Acute left, acute left.
camera.
The Ford team was the most experienced in the event, and Greg Carr was enjoying the challenge of a different surface.
Well, I still enjoy it, but there's more fun in it now with the winning, or the trying to win anyway. That's sort of the satisfying thing. I still enjoy just going around and sliding around in the car and controlling the car, but having top competitors to compete against is what I consider the most enjoyable part of rallying for me, and that's why I'm very pleased that Ari Vatanen could have come out to this rally and, you know, just give me something to aim at. I just hope we can get more people of his standard to come out to all our rallies in Australia.
Colin Bond's co-driver, John Dawson-Damer, is one of the enigmas of motorsport in Australia. He explains what motivates a navigator. Is it just the speed that gives him a thrill?
No, I don't think there is in that, but sitting next to Colin Bond is something quite different. Very little chit-chat in the car, very few comments from him, and no swear words, and if something catches him by surprise, he just has this natural ability to be able to walk over it and get himself out of it and not run into trouble. We've seen some incredible skid marks around, second time round, but he just handles things in such a natural way that that's what the joy is. And sometimes it's hard to concentrate when you start enjoying the driver. Suddenly realize the turn comes up and you've missed it.
The speed and precision of the leading drivers was almost unbelievable. There was never a pause in the lightning pace. With Ari Vatanen leading and Colin Bond matching the blistering attack in second place, it was simply a matter of the others chasing as hard as they could to stay near the front contenders. The first division on bitumen, Vatanen had won 6 stages. Colin Bond finished on top in 4, and Greg Carr won 3. The first division down, most of it on bitumen. How'd you find it?
Well, I found it very hot, interesting. Competition is quite hard. The locals, Greg and Colin Bond, are very fast indeed, so giving a hard time.
You're feeling a bit of pressure from those two drivers?
Yeah, definitely, you know, they don't let me to relax, no way. No, you know, I'm hardly in front of them.
And how do you feel about the lead that you have, about 12 or 15 seconds going into the night division?
Well, it's at least give me one advantage that I can be number one on the road, but nothing else. It's one puncture and we lose 2 minutes or 3 minutes, so 12 seconds is nothing.
Barton leads car by 16 seconds and goes into the night division only 9 seconds in front of Colin Bond. The forests are normally quiet at night, but once a year they come to life, fueled by the roar of engines and the cheers of thousands gathered at their favourite vantage point. Early in the night, there was one important change. Greg Carr had displaced Colin Bond and was running second.
Yes.
Rallying is in the blood of the drivers, win or lose. But there's one very real difference between rallying and all other forms of motorsport. That's true also for navigators like John Dawson-Damer.
It differs from motorsport in that it's still a sport and all the competitors get on very well together. And there's no problem about asking other people their times and they'll tell you, or having a good old giggle when there's a delay or a hold-up on the rally somewhere. And there's none of this sort of don't talk to the opposition that you get in motorsport to some extent. So to that extent, it's probably still sticking closest to sport of anything that exists at the moment.
Yeah, well, that time's pretty good for puncher.
Yeah, just watch him do this in case he holds back, right?
No, we won't. Looking for you. No, we'll get keep going in 3. Yeah. There 3 gears.
Did you get a 5 gap then? No, we've got a 4.
The familiar red and white colours of Peter Brock and Noel Richards have shown great consistency, even though driving a less competitive car. Brock is Australia's most popular all-round driver, and for him, the rally is a chance to unwind from the high-powered circuit racing and test his Commodore against the power of the Escorts.
Yeah, if they're all roads are all like that, I'm astonished.
Got better towards the end. I didn't know whether it was the road improving or whether it was you were starting to drive a straight line on it.
The road's improved. Because it got away from that powdery, mulchy sort of stuff, you know, that's really, absolutely no right. Hello, here we go, Bathurst pit stop.
During the night, word passed that the Finnish speed demon was taking more time from his challengers, but Vartinen remained wary of the threat from Greg Carr.
Well, you know, I always find it nice to be leading, so it's a nice feeling, but, you know, the rally it's not halfway through yet, nowhere near, so it's a long way to go.
The most outstanding thing about your driving so far is that you're continually taking time off Greg, who is renowned for knowing these forests so well. What do you put that down to? Just better driving skill, or?
Well, it may be his, you know, so-called Friday afternoon or Monday when you don't do a very good job. But I think he's still doing very well, but just, you know, it goes this way. One day you are faster, next day the other one is faster.
Ari Vartinen won every night stage except one. He begins the final division the next day, 2 minutes 13 seconds in front of Greg Carr. Victorian privateer that pushed his Datsun 1600 into 4th position. The drivers were rested and their energy restored. And right from the very beginning of the morning, the pressure and the excitement began to increase. This was the day of reckoning for all. If top rally teams survive, it's usually because of the trust between driver and navigator, as Karen Richards explains.
They get on very well. They've got a very good relationship. I mean, Ari trusts him 100%, and they've got a very good working team together. It's something that's very, very important to, you know, when you're going to spend sort of days on end with each other in a motor car. I mean, if you don't get on, well, there'll be big problems, I think.
I've noticed over the first couple of days of this rally that David, in many senses, tends to mother Ari, to watch over him,
yes.
to make sure that he does what's expected.
Yes, yes. Well, I think that's the co-driver's job, really. I mean, perhaps not quite to the point of mothering, but to making sure that he's there on time and that he's got everything he needs, so that all that the driver's got to worry about is getting in the car and driving. You know, the co-driver's job is to sort him out and make sure everything's smooth and that he has nothing else to worry about.
Mid-afternoon, and Vartanen is leading by 2.5 minutes.
Well, you know, because he seems to be pushing hard as well, so cannot afford to relax, so. But I think the margin is, well, it's reasonable, but still it's a fairly long way to go, and one puncture along a stage that would jeopardize the whole thing.
Vartanen and Carr have spread-eagled the field. Vartanen has won 4 of the final day's stages, and Carr 3. The pace is frightening. Both teams are going through tyres at an unbelievable rate. The pressure is mounting at every corner, and at this point, Vartanen rolls. Vartanen has been bent and bruised, and for him now, it's a case of go for broke. At the service area, the Massport crew wait, like expectant parents. Vartanen drives so close to the limit, there's always the possibility of a major mishap. Unfortunately for them, it's happened, and Vartanen isn't too pleased with himself.
Yes, if you were helping us more, we would be still leading the rally. Of course, I shouldn't have gone off the road, should I?
Clock, Greg.
Harry, it seems you're saying it's the worst for the last. What's happened?
Well, I think towards the end of this rally, the pace of the rally was getting too boring, so I decided to make it a bit more exciting by rolling my car over once. And we lost 4.5 minutes, and only people to give us hand were, you know, I think your rival television crew who were more willing to film than push us. So it took 4.5 minutes to get back to the road, but we are now, I think, 20 seconds behind Greg because he lost in turn sometime on that previous stage. So I think, you know, it's not too bad, you know, quite critical.
What's the damage to the car?
No, nothing really. You know, doesn't affect the driving.
What actually happened? You hit a stump or?
No, well, no, it was just a very sharp edge and the rear end went over the edge and, you know, after that it turned, so. Silly.
Even this close to home, Greg Carr can't relax because Vartanen is catching up time. But in the final challenge, the Massport team is running short of tyres, and Vartanen's plunge at the finish is plagued by punctures. Greg Carr snatches his 6th Castrol title in a desperate fight to the finish. Colin Bond was always a threat and finished 3rd. After 600 kilometres, the difference between Carr and Vartanen was only 40 split seconds.
Good to be over. No, I enjoyed it. Obviously the pace was on the whole time. There was no relaxing, and we both were pushing each other the whole way. I don't know what the official margin will be, but I suppose it'll only be about 20 seconds or something.
What do you feel about winning it because he rolled? Because that was where the difference was, wasn't it? That one lose off the top of the bank there.
Yeah, but you must remember when you're pushing, when you're going so hard, you're virtually on the limit, there's not much room for error. He might have been just going just a little bit too hard. And he had quite a few flat tyres today, and I think that's much the same sort of story. You know, you've got to go hard, but try and sort of keep your tyres intact and, you know, read the road right and that sort of thing.
Well, full credit to you and congratulations on your 6th win, and to Fred.
Thank you very much.
Well, Larry, running in 2nd spot, how do you feel?
Well, obviously disappointed, you know. very, ashamed for myself.
Ashamed because you had that role?
Exactly, stupid mistake, while I was having a good lead.
So you put it really down to your own fault?
Of course, 100%.
Lack of concentration, do you think it was?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. Shouldn't make this sort of mistakes, but then it's always worth analyzing what one has done. I have been my own enemy.
We start in Nelson in a city car park, and the first off the ramp is Bjorn Voldegaard, seated number 1 in the Mercedes team. He's the current world champion. He's Swedish and normally drives a Ford, but this year driving for Mercedes. The traditional flagging away on the first touring stage to the first special. Bjorn Voldegaard. Number 2 and leading this year's World Championship points for drivers is Walter Roll. It's a Fiat 131 Abarth. He's currently the hot running driver this year and well ahead on points, needs 3rd place. Special stage 1, Bjorn Voldegaard. You can see that big Mercedes, 5 litres of V8, 325 horsepower. It's a little long in the wheelbase for New Zealand conditions, where probably Fords and the Fiat will be better suited, or perhaps the Datsun if it's wet. This is Walter Roll. You can see how much tighter that Fiat is. It's a smaller car, 235 horsepower from a 2-litre 16-valve motor, similar to the Fiats that were here a couple of years ago. Much tighter lines. As you can see, the roads are wet, very slippery. Bjorn Voldegaard showing how wide a lines that Mercedes has to take in the wet. Walter Roll. Much tighter line. Fiat ideally suited to these conditions. And Walter Roll only needs 3rd place to retain his World Championship lead, so he's not going to be breaking his neck, he won't be taking any risks, and it's well within his capabilities, provided the car keeps going, to finish 3rd in this event. Still special stage 1, and that's Roll has caught and passed Bjorn Voldegaard. So in 30 Ks, that's more than a minute he's made up. Bjorn Voldegaard obviously having to take wider lines in the much bigger Mercedes. That's Andrew Cowan, another Mercedes, and here's a man who could be the dark horse in the field, Timo Salonen. He's been here before, he knows the roads. The car's a Group 2 Datsun 2-litre. It's a 160J. Timo Salonen, very aggressive driver. This is Pentti Ricola, came here last year in the Chevette. The Chevette didn't keep going. This year he's driving for the Mass Sport team in the Ford. That's an Escort BDA. Little bump here in Division 1. Bjorn Voldegaard slewing around a little. Here's Walter Roll. Much tidier. Walter Roll making good time. Pentti Ricola. Jim Donald in the number 2 Mass Sport Escort. Hannu Mikkola. George Fury from Australia in the number 2 Datsun. Now that's Brian Green. Brian Green, a rally driver that's been around for a long time. It's a BDA Escort, and what it looks like he's done is broken the throttle cable. Murray Chandler just going past him in the Lancer. In fact, what he's going to do as co-driver is he's tying the throttle cable so that he can hold it out the window. Means he can drive to the end of the stage holding on to the throttle. It'll get him there quicker than trying to fix it in the middle. The big Mercedes. This stuff is really too tight and too slippery for the Mercedes. Much better suited to the smaller cars. Bjorn Voldegaard already losing time. He's lost over a minute. Very wide lines. They come to check in at the end of the stage. Bjorn Voldegaard already losing plenty of time, and the man who is leading at this stage is Timo Salonen. This is Walter Roll's co-driver.
Salonen is going fast, and I go very slowly.
I be very careful with the car when it doesn't destroy anything. Datsun has 3 cars. Okay, they can push, but I am only the only Fiat.
And so the touring stage of Walter Roll explaining why he only needs 3rd place, and he can afford a little comfort, if you like. He doesn't need to break his neck. Touring now for some more special stages, still in Division 1. Walter Roll just behind Timo Salonen, who's in the lead. Fiat, as he explained, a single car. Timo Salonen, 1 of 2. Now we've got Bjorn Voldegaard stuck in the Ford. Now it's a deep Ford. Now he must have lost a lot of time here. And that'll be valuable time. And you can see there Walter Roll is backed up behind him, and Timo Salonen as well, so he must have lost nearly 3 minutes. That'll be time that will be very, very hard to try and pull back Walter Roll away and Timo Salonen. So Bjorn Voldegaard has lost nearly 3 minutes in that Ford. That'll be 2 days' work to draw back if he can. This is George Fury in the number 2 Datsun. Works Datsuns from Japan. Paul Adams in the number 1 General Motors Chevette. 2.3 litre 16 valve motor, twin cam. Into the Ford. Very tricky stuff. Second Ford within a couple of miles on this stage. And he stopped. He's losing time. Fords are so tricky. You can go through them fast, but it's so dangerous because the time you lose is so hard to pull back in special stages. And there's Shane Millen in the number 2 General Motors Chevette, who's caught Adams. And he's going to go past him, so Adams has lost at least a minute. Shane Millen currently lying 8. Picking up good time. That's Trevor Crowe, seated number 17, driving a BDA Ford for the first time in an international. Normally drives Datsuns. Good driver from Canterbury. Currently lying 17th. Paul Adams, currently lying 10th. Coming to the end of the first day. Good time for Paul Adams. Here's Ingvar Carlsson in the number 4 Mercedes. It's a 280 and quite a handful. A big crowd for a fine day in Nelson to watch the event. International drivers of great repute here. And so we come to the end of Division 1. Timo Salonen holding that lead just tenuously, 1:31 from Walter Roll. It's not a bad sort of margin. Voldegaard has lost valuable points in there. Jim Donald is the first New Zealander at 3rd place. Good driving from him, then Pentti Irkkilä, and then George Fury. And so to the start of Division 2. Cars just leaving Nelson to drive out to Bagents Forest. That's Andrew Cowan getting a little anxious to get there on time. He must check in on time. Special Stage 1, Division 1. Timo Salonen. Oh, very wide line for Timo Salonen. Here's Walter Roll, a much tighter line. You can see lots of people, a lot of crowds on the corners. Andrew Cowan. Currently the best of the Mercedes. Cowan a bit more familiar with the machines than other people, though he's never driven this model, which is a 4-speed auto. Ingvar Carlsson in the 280 Mercedes, number 4 Mercedes car. Here's Walter Roll, still in 2nd place. A minute and a half down on Timo Salonen. The weather's dried up, should favour the Fiat, and the Fords for that matter. And this is 135 miles an hour for a Mercedes-Benz, capable symbol of 140 in a straight line. This is where they excel, where it's a bit straighter. In 5th place, Hannu Mikkola. So the Mercedes team, after a bad day on the first day in the wet, it was too tight and twisty for them. They're starting to pick up times well now. Hannu Mikkola. Some of the casualties here on the road. Baron Robertson's car number 57 in the Chevette. And Dennis O'Brien, that is, car 75 in the 120Y coupe. They're out. Here's a Ford for Andrew Cowan. Getting a little assistance out at the end of that. He's got a problem with his rear axle. So Mercedes have flown in by helicopter an entire rear end. They broke a half shaft. They had the helicopter in the air with an entire back end slung underneath it, and now it's furious work for the Mercedes team to get this in before he's too late. That's here Vaxenberger, who is the team manager for Mercedes, very anxious to get Andrew Cowan's car to Parc Fermé on time. He can't afford more than 20 minutes of time, so they've got to get this back end in 20 minutes or less. Some of the beautiful countryside around the Nelson area. This is Timo Salonen still in the lead. Ingvar Carlsen, the 280 Mercedes. And into Parc Fermé at Golden Downs Forest.
I think we can make it, but that depends if we don't have any more problems. But it's just possible.
So on after the lunch break, into the Golden Downs Forest again for another 3 stages. Very dusty this time, something they haven't had yet because of the rain. That will favour the front runners. We've had an off, and it's Jim Donald, who was laying 3rd. He's come off. The car's not badly damaged, but he has lost too much time and he'll be excluded. Here's his co-driver, Kevin Lancaster.
We're actually travelling down a very fast downhill section, and we came over a bit of a blind brow, which was followed by a very tight right-hander. Unfortunately, the sun was shining through the trees and directly into Jim's eyes, and he almost missed the corner. He did scramble around it, but unfortunately the 2 outside wheels went over the edge. As the car scrambled back on, the back hit a tree, which brought the front over and stopped it half on the road and half off. Unfortunately, the roading underneath crumbled and the car slid down the bank onto its side and up against a tree. And that was the end of it. It took 3 Land Rovers and 6 people to winch it out afterwards.
So bad luck for Jim Donald, who loses that 3rd place, and he's out of the event now. Timo Salonen getting a change of tyres, having a nervous smoke.
We are about 25 seconds front of Walter.
25 seconds in front of Walter Roll. He has Japanese mechanics from the Works Datsun factory, of course. A little communications problem there. And another one that arises with the number 2 Datsun driver, who's George Fury from Australia. So the common language is English, and hopefully some of it's good.
Just not going. Only spinning on this wheel. Is that right? Yeah. Whether the other axle's been broken in the last stage or not. He'd start take the wheel off. I've had a flat tire for about 11 kilometres. I had one the previous stage for about 5, so dropped a bit of time on those 2. We didn't stop to change them, we kept driving. It cost you a lot of time. Apart from that, things are good.
Things are good, and still in 4th place, George Fury from Australia in the number 2 Datsun car. Glenn McIntyre, car number 27. He is doing amazingly well in the Datsun 16, in an Escort 1600. He's managed to get himself up to 10th place, which for an Escort 1600 Sport is amazingly good driving. Glenn McIntyre from Wellington.
I think we've been very lucky so far. That'll do then, that'll do. Right. Yeah, we've been very, very lucky, I think. We haven't had any troubles. The car's run well other than losing a brake line, and we swiped the bank. Apart from that, it's been going very well indeed. Yeah, we're real happy.
And so lots of spectators and traffic on the road as the cars leave Golden Downs. Lights on, just on darkness. This is Malcolm Stewart, another of the drivers well down the seating order, but doing very well in car 28. Another Escort 1600.
We just need a bit of a check over around here, something. Still running idling too fast, and occasionally it floods up when you drop down a low gear, but we might have to study that float situation again.
A bit of a crack starting on the exhaust here too.
A bit of a crack starting? Might need a bit of a welding up there. It's long top. The lights all need shining downwards, all too high.
We've got those other two. You want to chuck them in now?
Oh, we could do. It doesn't matter much, but we're catching possums all up in the trees. Can't see much of the road at all.
That's the telltale sign of the troubles that Andrew Cowan has been having all day. That's the fuel pump on the ground, complicated as it looks. You've been having problems with that all day, and here Waxenberger is anxious to get it going again. Andrew Cowan losing valuable time.
Andrew, what's gone wrong?
This time? We don't know. It's the engine's cutting out, and it stopped in the last special stage, and maybe fuel, you know, so we're changing the fuel pumps and the filters in case we picked up some dirt.
Car's obviously going again, the big V8 fired up, and Andrew Cowan off in again into the night at the end of Division 2. So as we come to the end of Division 2, the results, Timo Salonen still holding on to that lead by 1 minute and 5 seconds from Walter Roll. Pentti Rikkilä has moved up into 3rd place, then George Fury, then Hannu Mikkola. Jim Donald, of course, went off in stage 11, so he's out altogether, and we have 51 of the 80-odd starters still left in the rally.
Here, in this farm scene, there's a killer.
To Division 3, 12 special stages, Golden Downs and Vagent's Forest, and on to Greymouth till 3 o'clock in the morning. Bjorn Voldegaard. Hannu Mikkola in the number 2 Mercedes car, seated 3. And here's Bjorn Voldegaard in the number 1 Mercedes car, currently lying 6th in the rally. And really getting the Mercedes wound up. This is wider and more open stuff, much better suited to the Mercedes. And here's a little, by comparison, minuscule pushrod Datsun Escort 1600, 1/3 the motor size of the Mercedes, and doing very well. Glenn McIntyre from Wellington, having a great rally. This is Patrick Gratien from New Caledonia, in the 2-litre Celica, just by Lake Rotorua. He's a little off the pace, Patrick Gratien, but still going consistently. Just needs to stay out of trouble, and he'll be in with a good place. Here's another Ford Escort going extremely well for the size of the car and the engine. This is Peter Cullen, car 35. And another one of these great bunch of Ford Escort Sports. Car 40 is Alan Wills from Oamaru. Another man having a good rally. Walter Roll really getting the field 131 wound up. Capable of 120 miles an hour to 135 horsepower. Andrew Cowan. This is Paul Adams. Had a puncture 20 k's into the stage. This was the result. He's driven all the way out of that stage on it and destroyed the rim. And Patrick Gratian, after an argument with a tree.
He overtook me on gravel, on asphalt. I overtook him.
Did you have a problem in there?
No, it's only my tires.
Your tires?
I have very hard tires.
So not suitable for the stage?
No.
What did you think of the stage?
For me, too fast. I'm always too short. I have always some limitations.
Are you happy with your times as they're going? It seems like Penty's catching you.
No problem.
You're not worried?
No problem.
Still 8 hours to go and complete nonchalance from Walter Roll in the Fiat. Quite happy with his second place at the moment. Timo Salonen off into the night. Difficult stuff, the night driving. They've got good lights, but it's still hard work. Hannu Mikkola currently lying third. Paul Adams in the Chevette. He's sixth. Andrew Cowan's trying to pick up places as well. He's well down.
Mike, just missed me in the corner. When? Yeah, another video. You make a lovely face, man. I'll never see up this year. You don't switch that later.
Andrew Cowan away. Very familiar with New Zealand roads, particularly South Island ones. He's won here twice, once in a Mini and once in an Avenger, but he's never driven a Mercedes here before. Timo Salonen still holding on to that lead. Seppo Harjan, that's Timo Salonen's co-driver. Penty Ricola still holding on to third place. The brake's getting very hot indeed. He's really pushing it now, trying to pick up places. Hannu Mikkola. Mikkola sitting in third place. He's won twice here as well. It's Jim Scott, Paul Adams co-driver. And on to the service break, the Mercedes team. Looks like they haven't got a great deal to do. They must be happy with the way the cars are going, although they're going to need to push them very hard from here on in. Graham Lorimer from Hamilton in the Escort. He's got some work to do.
Right.
Currently well down. And his co-driver is Nicky Duckworth, former Miss New Zealand. Getting her hands dirty tonight. Paul Adams is currently sixth.
What one, the water popped or not? Yeah.
Cut right out. Worse, actually.
Just cut right out.
Yeah. Stopped it. You must have done something to it since we did the testing at Pyro, because it wasn't that bad before, eh?
That's what we, can't bloody figure out at all.
Well, even Shane's is going to the water a lot better than ours. Even Shane's is going to the water a lot better than ours.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. See, it went down to 2 cylinders on the first board, and then with the second one, we only just got through across the other side.
So Paul Adams with a few problems in the number 1 Chevette, and this is the number 2 Chevette, Shane Merlin's. Adams is lying 6th at the moment. He won't want to lose any time.
No.
And Penty Ricola, by the looks, is changing the gearbox. Jim Donald is on the service crew again. Very professional service crew, the Massport crew. They have been in the last few years. Very fast. Fast and furious work. In fact, it is a gearbox they're changing. On Penty Ricola's car, the number 1 Massport Ford Escort. Fast work from the Massport crew. And so at the end of Division 3, Timo Salonen still has that lead, and that's amazing in a Datsun 2-litre that's only in Group 2. Walter Roll's right behind him. He's not doing anything silly. A minute 37 behind. Then Penty Ricola. Shane Merland is out of that stage. He's blown a motor at the end of the stage. And so on to Division 4. And this is the sort of weather that Greymouth and the West Coast turned on for Division 4. It's very wet, it will suit the smaller cars, and it will probably suit Timo Salonen. He's got that lead and he's not letting it go. And of course, he's got a buffer between himself and Pentti Ricola of 5 odd minutes. Walter Roll's in the middle there, but he's not trying too hard. This is Pentti. He really needs to push it now to pick up that 5 minutes. Walter Roll happy with his second place. Driving well within himself. The Fiat going superbly well. Bjorn Voldegaard away. They've got a long straight in this stage, almost 3 Ks long. Timo Salonen. That's 120 miles an hour. Now the Datsun is not all that fast in a straight line, and you can see there that Pentti Ricola has caught up. We'll get a time as he comes past, but it looks like he's so close. 15 seconds behind Timo, so Pentti has caught up 45 seconds. He's really pushing. He had 5 minutes from the start of this division to catch up. Hannu Mikkola in the big Mercedes, and this straight for them will be close to 140 miles an hour. 325 horsepower of V8. Graham Lorimer into the Ford. He has to be careful here. He doesn't want to get the motor and the electrics wet. They can be very dangerous and very tricky things, Fords. You can get the electrics wet, or if they're up high like this one is with all the rain, the force of the water is quite a lot. This is Jeff Owen, almost off the side. Jeff Owen, car 65, just saving it. See the potential danger there. Brent Ralston into the Ford now. And Brian Stokes right on his tail. He's caught up a minute. Just a little sideways there. Very slippery. And so they leave the West Coast, and hopefully to some better weather in Canterbury, up to Arthur's Pass. This is Lake Linden. 30K stage here. Still 21 hours away from Christchurch and Cathedral Square and the finish. Timo Salonen should be the first in, and he is still in the lead. Timo Salonen. Walter Roll still holding second place, Hannu Mikkola third, George Fury fourth, and Bjorn Voldegaard in fifth place. This is an amazing performance from the Datsun. Only 190 horsepower. Well under the specifications of the Fiat and the Ford Escorts and the Chevettes. Timo first in. He'll probably start to ease off just a little now. He's got a nice buffer between he and third place, and Walter Roll in second place is not trying all that hard.
Yeah. 8:34, 39.
And there's some bad news at this stage.
What about Walter Roll? He's still there. He's about 1.5 minutes behind us.
The bad news is that Pentti Ricola, who was in third place, has come off. He is out altogether and he's injured as well. Right at the end of special stage 31.
I don't know what happened. I saw him 80 or 100 meters straight on, but I was thinking maybe he only took a small road and he will come back, but I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. How bad was that corner after the stage?
Yeah, of course, it was like here, it was always fifth gear, over a brow, finished off stage after 80 meters, 90 right.
Such a nasty place. And I think that is a rule what should be necessary to put into the FIA as well. It's, of course, you shall drive the car all the time, but it's silly to make it like this.
And so several of the drivers are a little unhappy with the end of stage 31, which is where Pentti Ricola came off. And now from the long touring stage, it's steam cleaning. The reason for it is that there's a fungus in the Nelson forest that they don't want transferred to Canterbury, so that all the cars, in case they've picked up some of it, are being steam cleaned here at Rangiora, ready for the stages in Ashley Forest. And there's the damage you can see to Pentia-Riccola's car. It's not drastic damage, but it was enough to do some damage to Pentia-Riccola's back. He has a fracture in the spine. Gore Bay, North Canterbury, just out of Cheviot. Short 10 or 11k special stage here, down to Demetz. Of course, a contrast from last night's weather. It's dry and will suit the smaller cars again. Hannu Mikkola, still lying third. An amazing performance considering how much he was down. He's fought his way back to third. Still quite a gap, but it's a good third place for him. The first of the Mercedes. George Fury's in fourth, and Bjorn Vordegaard in the other Mercedes is fifth. And touring on down through Canterbury, where they'll come to Christchurch, and above Christchurch, the Port Hills, for the final special stages before they get to Christchurch. This is the Port Hills, and that's what it looks like, Christchurch, from above Christchurch. Two short stages here, under 10Ks. This is Timo Salonen. All he's got to do is stay on the road, essentially, to win the 1980 Motorgaurd Rally. It's an amazing performance from the Datsun. It's gone extremely well, and Timo Salonen really has got this thing sewn up. He's only got a short touring stage, so unofficially he's won the 1980 Motorgaurd Rally. He must be a happy man. The car was considered an underdog right from the start. And right behind him, Walter Roll, who with that second place will have enough points to hold his World Championship lead quite easily. Hannu Mikkola, he's won twice before in New Zealand rallies. Coming up to the end of the last stage, last special, Hannu Mikkola will unofficially be in third place in what really has been an uncompetitive car in the conditions. Hannu Mikkola's done amazingly well to come through to third place in the Mercedes. And the number 2 Datsun coming in fourth place. So first and fourth for Datsun. This is George Fury, the Australian driver, driving for Wertz Datsun. Very likeable fella, George Fury. And a very good performance indeed, too, from both the Datsuns. 1 and 4, George Fury in fourth place. Bjorn Vordegaard, who came here as the current World Rally Champion. He was driving a car that had a lot of publicity and a lot of build-up. He has come in 5th place. These places, of course, unofficial. Bjorn Vordegaard had problems right from the word go. He's fought his way back and has finished in 5th place. The second of the Mercedes. Hannu Mikkola, of course, in third. 6th place and the first New Zealander, the number 1 Chevette from the General Motors team of 3. This is Paul Adams with co-driver Jim Scott, and he'll be happy with 6th place and the first New Zealand crew in. And a man who always enjoys rallying and seems to compete in cars that are basically stock standard, Rangi Greenland. He's come in well down the order, but he's finished. And so the finish ramp for Timo Salonen. An excellent drive in what has been an excellent and reliable car. Timo Salonen wins the 1980 Motorgaurd International Rally from Walter Roll in second place, who's virtually sewn up the World Championship points now for drivers. Timo Salonen the winner. Walter Roll second, Hannu Mikkola third, George Fury is fourth, Bjorn Vordegaard is fifth. 6th place in the first New Zealander, Paul Adams. 7th is Paddy Davidson, another good performance. And Dave Parks in 8th place.
So you want to be
Do that since the rally started. Car that came here. This is Andrew Cowan's one, which has been on its ear a couple of times and still came out the end. As we said, they came here with a lot of publicity. Strictly speaking, they were uncompetitive. But they're still a very impressive motor car and one that could be a lot of fun. Not ideal for New Zealand conditions. In the studio tonight, we've got Paul Adams and Jim Scott. Paul, congratulations. First New Zealander home.
Thank you, Tony.
Is that a thrill?
It is, yes.
Are you tired?
I am. You've been keeping me up a long time to have this interview.
Tell us, it's been a long rally, and there's been a lot of things happen start to finish. How did you think it went? What did you think were the, the outstanding bits of this as opposed to any other rally?
The rally as a whole, I felt the stages were rougher than what I'd expected. It was extremely hard on the actual car. A lot of the forest roads were very, very rough. And of course, with all the rain that we've had, especially down the west coast, the water tables, which is the big ditches beside the roads, were very deep, and there was a lot of water actually flowing in them, and it made it very difficult to stay onto the road without the car actually sliding off into a ditch, because you'd never get out if you dropped into it.
There seem to be a lot of problems for a lot of people at the fords. Did you have many problems there?
We did. Unfortunately, we had done a lot of waterproofing to the car prior to the event, because we knew that water was going to be a particular problem. But unfortunately, all our testing didn't show up the actual problems that did arise, and it's also very difficult to fix a problem once the event's underway. But I'll give all credit to our guys. They worked hard on the problem, and we did actually overcome it, but probably a little bit too late.
Now, Paul, I always give you a hard time, and I'm sure you'll understand, but I've got to put it in. Jim Donald beat you on every stage for quite a long time there, and I was expecting that there was going to be quite a tussle, as there normally is in the national rounds in New Zealand. Why do you think he was beating you?
He must have been going too fast, because he didn't get to the end.
You were driving to get to the end and with that in mind?
Yeah, no, there was two things that we had in mind, in all seriousness. Was one, we were trying to avoid punches, because we knew that there was going to be a lot of sharp rocks down here in the South Island, and to do that I felt that we had to drive a little bit tidier than what we probably can on the North Island roads, and I think that probably would slow our stage time a little bit. But no, Jim, all credit to Jim, he went very, very well, and he surprised me at how fast he was going.
Do you think that's some indication of the way the national rounds are going to go from now on?
No way, no, we'll be faster in round 4.
Jim Scott, it's a hard job being a navigator, and this rally has had some problems start to finish in various different aspects. Did you find it a hard rally to navigate?
Yes, the forests up here are very, very tricky in that they have a terrific lot of intersections, and you're getting bounced around. It's very, very rough, and when we actually got into dust problems, it was a real hard job.
Was it a hard rally from your point of view? You've done a few.
Yes, I think as rallies goes, it's as tough as the one I've been on.
Thanks, Jim.
Good, thank you.
Also in the studio with us tonight is Jerry Phillips, a man who used to sit in the co-driver's seat as a professional, and now is tied up with a pen and follows rallies all around the world, doing nothing other than reporting on rallies. Jerry, you see a lot of rallies all over the world. How does this compare in terms of other World Championship rounds?
Well, it's totally unique. Every rally in the world should have its own character, and this one certainly has. Lots of people criticize the fact that some rallies don't conform completely to international rules, but if every rally were made the same, the world would be a very, very sad place.
What do you think of the outstanding features of this rally? What puts it apart from other ones?
Well, it's difficult to put your finger on it. First of all, it's got a secret route, and it shares that distinction with the RSC rally. All other events are open for practice, and sometimes people practice for 2 months. The fact that it's secret and drivers have to cope with what comes up in front of them as they see it is something which should be preserved.
Obviously, the organisers of a rally like this, the officialdom, comes in for a lot of criticism. They always do, probably all over the world. How did ours stand up?
Oh, very well indeed. It's got rough edges, but there isn't a perfect rally at all anywhere. They all have a few shortcomings. But I think with a few smoothing off of the rough edges, it should be great. It is now.
Just quickly, who, for your bread, was the best driver in this rally?
If you've got a coin, I'll toss it in the air, but I don't think I'll answer that one. I've got too many people out there watching who might have my neck afterwards.
Okay, Jerry Phillips, thank you very much. Well, the rally has been won in a Datsun by Timo Salonen. We didn't expect it. Probably most spectators didn't. Probably most of the officialdom didn't. But that's the way it is. The 1980 International Motorgaurd Rally. Timo Salonen, congratulations.
Yeah, up that road. And it gets into Pinnacle Hill, doesn't it? I remember seeing that in the CBA. Oh, that's where we'll go.
Yeah.
You look like your father weird out.
His Mazda RX-3 is the only non-Ford in the top 10 starters, and in practice, it's been running sweetly.
A lot of the car around, and it needs a more aggressive style to sort of go really quick, and it can take it, really well. We find we can sort of really fire it into the corners sideways now, and even at times you can sort of start backing into the corners. It is actually quicker. I know we use a lot of ditches now, and we get in the bushes quite often, but we're not there to come out with a pretty car, we're there to come out with a result. When you take the number of turns, we must go through thousands of turns. Every one of those is due to a fraction of a second faster through that, and somebody else you'll be beating by minutes in the end. Everything else in New Zealand other than this international rally. We are very determined. We want to win this rally this year. But Brooks has to be the favourite. 77 British Rally champion and out in front again this year. Chris Porter, a local man, is Brooks's co-driver. Porter usually teams up with... So Brooks leads off at the start of the 3-day kilometre event, and that's the longest event Brooks has ever competed in. He's determined to do well.
To be won. That's the way it wouldn't going otherwise.
Millen's next to won 6 of the last 12 national rallies, and his rotary engine is the only threat to the Ford monopoly. John Wolfe in the first of the final top escorts. He and co-driver Grant Whitaker 5 Auckland crews among the top 6 seedings. The other half of the Massport team is Jim Donald. He's only been rallying for 4 years, but he's already made a big impact on the sport. Paul Adams in the second of the vinyl top escorts makes up the top 6. But not quite. Already one driver is missing. Mike Marshall in car 5 has failed to report at the start. When the Aucklander does arrive, he's ushered along the pavement to the start ramp to place him nearer his original starting position. Marshall's reason for lateness? Believe it or not, his RS 1800 ran out of petrol on the way from the Parc Fermé to the start.
Bob's brother, John. There he goes, Mike Marshall, very strong. New Zealand hope in this international rally.
It's the special stages that decide who wins the motorgaurd rally, and there are 34 of them totaling 1,000 kilometres, all different conditions. In effect, it's like 34 different race circuits, with touring stages to get the cars from one special to another. The early stages in Auckland are mainly for the spectators' benefit, but no one takes them quietly, least of all Mike Marshall. Rod Millen's also starting the run. Jim Donald, he came third in the 76 International. And Brooks is right there, just off the early pace. At times, Millen pushes it just a little too hard. And Tony Baker's in even more trouble. This is his Datsun 120Y after he rolled it in the opening stage. But after some hasty repair work, his service crew appeared optimistic even euphemistic.
Yes, we're quite confident we'll get to Wellington. The car's going very well indeed, no problems at all. All we have to do is put some lights on it and we're away.
While Marlene Baker puts it all down to the traditional first stage bogey. Stage 3, Pinnacle Hill, a fast downhill stretch south of Auckland, and Rod Millen goes into an early lead. But by only 2 seconds. Brooks's teammate Jim Donald is right on Millen's tail. He's not been put off by his delayed start. He's in third place and really moving. In fourth equal place with Brooks is Paul Adams, just 20 seconds from the leaders. At this stage, little separates the field, although some of the lower order cars are beginning to find the pace a little too demanding. 6 rollovers from top to bottom for Dermot Malley and co-driver Jim Kidd in their Escort. The vehicle looks ready for the scrapyard, but the Aucklanders aren't going to give up yet. A little help from a handy fence post. Some local advice.
Is there a way out of this field?
Yeah, we've got the gate just up the top there. Let's get started unless we can get out of here first.
And a helping hand from the spectators gets Malley going again and at least heading in the right direction. Dermot Malley wasn't the only one having trouble with that bend. Cars, meanwhile, have headed south to the Matahuru Gorge, one of the most testing of stages. Russell Brooks is first away. Watch how he handles this tight and twisty course with speed and absolute control that at times borders on pure grace. drive pushes Brooks up into third place. But rally leader Rod Millen is in trouble. He's having problems with his motor. The misfiring, now plainly audible, loses him time and causes him to replace his carburettor at the end of the stage. This is John Wolfe. You can tell his motor's not running smoothly either. Each car sets off 1 minute apart in a special stage, and that makes overtaking unusual. But look how much Jim Donald has closed on Wolfe halfway through the stage. Donald put up a fast time for the gorge, but not as fast as Paul Adams. Further back, Trevor Crowe throwing his Avenger around. He's lost synchromesh in second gear. Marshall still back with the slower cars. Nevertheless, he's putting in good time. Incredibly, Dermot Malley's battered Escort is still there and running. The Maramarillo State Forest, 19 kilometres past roads, and now there are two new. Jim Donald, Massport sent him to England this year to study their works cars. Paul Adams, 20 seconds behind in his distinctive black Escort. The chase is really on. Near Hamilton, and John Wolfe turns it on in stage 7. The crowds have turned out for this rallycross stage. It's a rare opportunity to see the cars from start to finish. Russell Brooks is fast through the bends. Through the water. Jim Donald clocks
exactly the same time as his Massport teammate. But 1 second quicker and fastest through the stage is Rod Millen. Looks even faster. He hammers his way through the outward leg, but then fails to appear at the finish. Marshall, lying second at this point, has come a cropper in no uncertain terms.
And we're coming across here and had this row of little white things to show where the road went, but I thought I was going pretty quick and I thought I could take a shortcut across the grass, but when we got here, found there's a big ditch across. We couldn't see it.
Are either of you hurt?
Yeah, I think John's...